All right, everybody, welcome back to the 11th episode of the YoungPro podcast. I am here and joined by my co-host, Dustin Kupka.
It's partly cloudy at 43 degrees.
And our guest today is Jonathan Patterson. He's 30 years old and an Iowa native, started and owns his own moving company, and has purchased a rental property and is buying a storage unit to rent out. So I'm super excited to hear his story. And how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. I want to thank you guys for inviting me out today. I greatly appreciate it.
Totally. How did
Absolutely.
you and Dustin meet real quick before we get into everything?
Gosh, we met a handful of years back through
Probably
some business owners that we know.
15 maybe? 14?
10, 12?
14? We'll call
Over
it
the 10 digits.
14 years ago.
You guys met 14 years ago.
It's been a while.
All right. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you said you're studying for your real estate exam as well.
Yep. Doing real estate. Well, I'm studying for real estate. Obviously, I do outside sales for a foundation company. Outside of that, I own moving business where we have the customer buy the U-Haul. So then I have no overhead and we're just the muscle, which is a great workout. And then we got the townhouse, buying the storage unit, and then, about to get my license.
How did you-
Dabbling and everything.
How did you get into real estate, or like what caught your interest initially?
So when I was 16, I was living in Western Iowa, Council Bluffs. My parents and I lived in an apartment. There's 7 of us. I have 4 sisters, my mom and dad.
Wow.
My dad was diagnosed with cancer when I was
Sorry to hear
16.
that.
And it's okay, he's still alive. But he had cancer of the lymph nodes, and he got a new job. That's why we moved over to Western Iowa.
Okay.
And they fired him 2 days on the job because he broke his 90-day contract, which used to be an older term to where you had to work 90 days before you got benefits.
Yeah.
And he was fired on day 2 because he went to the hospital, wasn't feeling good, was diagnosed with cancer. From 16 to 21, my dad didn't get any money. He didn't get medical disability. He didn't make any money. So when I was 16, me and my oldest sister started working to pay for rent.
Wow.
And that's when I realized when I was 16 that someday I'm going to own this building. Someday there's going to be somebody like me in my shoes that I have no control over my parents' income. And that someday I'm going to say, hey, no big deal. I'm going to take care of the rent because I own the property.
Wow. That's amazing.
Life, man.
Yeah.
Life hit you. So at 16 years old, you just got bomb just dropped on your family, right?
Yep.
And there's 7 of you total?
Yep.
So you and your sisters, you guys just had to kind of figure out what to do. So do you remember, like, because there's moments in time, I think everybody has this moment in time where it's just like, bam. And it sounds like 16 years old was for you. Like, it just hits you, like the reality of like, holy crap, like this is happening. Do you remember, like, vividly, was it a phone call? How do you remember when you realized I need to step it up and I need to start taking care of my family and go that route?
When I was going to school, everybody had homework. They're getting A+, whatever. Like, I was like, I don't give a shit about school right now.
Right.
I either need to go to work and pay for rent, or we're kicked out and we have nowhere to live.
How old were you? I mean, what grade of school?
Sophomore, junior.
Somewhere
Okay.
around there.
So I was almost 17. So sophomore, junior year, around there. And that's when I realized, like, everybody's doing all this stuff, worrying about shit that doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously for them it matters, but for me, I was like, I'm worried about how do I pay electric?
Yeah.
Right.
How do we pay the rent? Because every month we were late, and then we had to pay a late fee.
So you weren't, focused so much on the basketball team or the
Not
football
at all.
team or chasing girls, or
Not at all.
not even chasing girls?
Not at all.
Man. So, I mean, it was your business. I mean, this is, like you said, either I got to figure this out or else maybe my family might be on the streets.
Yep. I have 2 little sisters younger than me that were impacted. You know what I mean? Because none of us had a car to drive. None of us had cell phones.
Right.
I didn't get a cell phone until I was 18. That was 2010. You know what I mean? So for me, it was just a different way of thinking.
Right.
So that's when I.
So what was that? What was so you got the news, game on. What was that first job? What was your very first job?
Hy-Vee.
Hy-Vee.
Grocery store clerk.
Grocery.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Filling it. What was your hours then? I mean, school.
So anytime after school, I'd go work 4 to 10. And then Saturday, Sunday, I'd pick up as many hours as I could.
Yeah.
And the reason I remember passing algebra because my teacher would see me at Hy-Vee so much, and she kind of felt bad. But I always showed up. I paid attention. You know what I mean? It's not like I was bombing the test and stuff. But I was like, I don't have time for homework. I'm going to work. I don't give a shit about this test. And so I think I passed algebra because my teacher saw me at IB so much.
She loved IB. And
Yeah.
That is crazy.
All right, so then
That's
first
awesome.
job was at Hy-Vee. When did you kind of get into the entrepreneur or when did you try and start your moving company?
That was middle of COVID, actually. So
Really?
Just recently, yeah.
Yeah, so I've always been the guy that everybody called me to help them move. And I always said yes. You know what I mean? 'Cause I don't have
You know why he's too good of a guy. So he'd be
Yeah.
like, let's call John. John will help.
Yeah.
All right, I'll do it, you know.
And so me and my best friend, we just got tired of moving people. And I said, F this, I'm going to start a moving company.
Isn't that great?
So the first job we did, we charged $60 an hour, 30 a piece.
Yeah.
And we're like, this is not enough because we had to move one of those, 900-pound safes. We're like, we can't do this with just two guys. So we had to get more people. So we're like, we need to up our rates.
Yeah.
So then we went to 60 an hour, so 120.
Yeah.
And then we're like, that's not enough. So now we charge 150 an hour.
For how many
For two
people?
guys.
For two guys.
Yeah.
For two guys. Okay, two guys.
So
100 people.
$75 an hour.
Yeah.
And
Each individual.
so the whole model is just like, okay, you go get the U-Haul.
Yep.
They put it in their name. They get the insurance,
Correct.
right? All that's in their name.
Yep.
Then can you go get it? Can you pick it up and actually drive away? Or
Technically,
no, they
I
have to
them
pick it
sign
up.
a waiver normally. So I'm not responsible.
At the property?
Yeah, like I'll give them a piece of paper and say, hey, I'm not responsible
Yeah.
for if something falls out of the truck while I'm driving it.
Yeah.
But 70% of the time, there's a guy that'll drive the truck. No big deal.
Right.
The husband, the
The husband will
boyfriend,
drive it.
whatever.
Someone.
Yeah.
So they show up at your house. You meet them wherever.
Yep.
They sign this waiver.
Yep.
$150 an hour. They got
150.
two dudes that, I mean, they have this truck. They have
Yep.
you guys, and then
That's impressive.
Isn't that cool? And
Yeah,
then I mean, we've used John on some of our clients, and it's awesome because that's what they're
fantastic.
needing is just
Yeah.
labor.
Someone to help, do the
Yeah,
labor.
just someone that
Yeah.
is willing to do it. And
I tell people you can't move a couch by yourself.
right.
So hit
Yeah.
me up.
Yeah.
What's the name of the moving company?
Just the movers.
Just the Movers?
Yep.
That's cool.
Get it?
It's
Just
simple,
the
right?
movers.
Yeah, it works. That works.
Yeah.
All right, and then what about the rental property?
The rental property, I just wanted to get in real estate. And sometimes what stops people is not knowing how, not knowing when, not knowing how much. And so I was talking to Dustin. I'm like, dude, I just need to buy something.
Yeah.
And in the middle of COVID, the worst time to buy anything because,
Yeah.
people are taking offers without inspections or anything.
Yeah,
So
crazy.
we found a spot where Dustin helped one of my friends buy a townhouse, and we're like, let's do it. We put an offer in right then and there. They accepted it because we had no conditions or anything like that, and we bought it for 140 and
What's it worth now?
160.
Oh,
and
that's not so bad.
yeah, no, it's not bad
Yeah.
at
That's
all. I rent it for $1,800 a month.
And you said that's short term.
Short term.
so do you hear what he said?
Yeah, I want to hear the story.
$1,800 a
Yeah,
month, dude.
Yeah,
On a townhouse that he paid $160 for.
that's
140.
amazing.
$144.
Yeah.
It's worth- and he's getting $1,800.
Yeah.
With HOA and
So-
mortgage insurance, 12. I'm at like.
All right, because this is
Yeah,
to
how
me.
much? 1250, 1150.
So
So
I make
you're clearing $650 a month. Wow.
This
Yeah,
is a
that's
great
what I'm-
story though. So
Yep.
so John, John's talking. He's like, oh man, I gotta get something. He's doing well in his career and has his money. He's just been sitting on it for a while. He's like, all right. So we had his game plan and we've been talking for a while about it. Like I said, his friend, found one and good area and so here we are. He gets this property. It's supposed to, obviously owner occupied, and he's getting in this property and. He calls me, and this is the best part because the reason why he's at $1,800 is because he got smoked by doing the Airbnb.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell him about your very first. So he gets this property bought, first experience. Tell us about that.
Okay. So we fully furnish it.
Yeah.
I listed on Airbnb. I have it booked out for 2.5 months. Before I even get my first client, it's booked for 2.5 months.
Really?
Yep. I had it at like 175 a night,
Okay.
booked for 2.5 months.
With the same person?
No, with multiple.
Just multiple people, just
all the way
bam.
through.
Yep.
Wow.
Had this guy named Kona from Minneapolis say, hey, I'm in town from Minneapolis. I need to, use your place for the weekend. I said, okay, sweet. This is my first guest. Awesome.
Yeah.
Tell me what you need, blah, blah, blah. Well, he gets in there Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday morning, I arrive. He didn't answer. Everybody in the townhouse area complained to my HOA. This guy threw a raging party, had 20 people over. He blocked the garage entry points, which is against the HOA.
For other people?
For other people. They threw a party that was so loud till like 4 in the morning, both Friday night and Saturday night. They burned holes in my carpet, my kitchen counter, my island. They burned the blanket. They trashed
everything.
They trashed it. And I was so fucking pissed. Sorry.
No, you're good.
We'll edit that.
I was so mad. And then my fiance, she's pissed off at me. She's like,
"Oh, of course,
let those guys stay
yeah,
here."
definitely.
I knew this was the worst idea ever, and I was like, "Calm down. I didn't know. You don't know that's going to happen."
Yeah.
That was just a one-off experience. That was the worst experience that could happen for me doing it my first time.
Yeah.
And so then I had to call
She gets
Airbnb.
blown up.
Had to call Airbnb and say, "Hey,
so
you need to cancel everybody else because I'm not ready for them
to
come stay."
now,
And then I had to go through air cover request for them to pay for damages, and then I had to like figure out how much new carpet's going to be and this and that.
Did you ever get paid on that?
Yeah, they paid me 50%.
Oh.
So
of the damages.
So one thing I did was like I said, I'm going to replace the whole carpet, and then I patched it. So then it helped cover
all the other
offset the price. Yeah,
exactly.
okay.
Exactly.
That's nice.
And so then after that, I'm like, okay, I'm not doing the short term thing because the HOA fined me $1,000 because in the bylaws, it says you can't have people under 30 days stay. And I didn't know that. I didn't read the bylaws. You know what I mean? I just bought the town. I'm ready to rock and roll. Let's make some money, you know? And so I'm like, damn it. Okay, I need to either figure out 30-day leases or a standard 12-year or 12-month lease, you know, normal stuff. And then I just Google, because for my day job, I meet 2 new homeowners every day. So I always ask them, hey, what do you and your wife do? I heard somebody say traveling nurse. And I'm like, okay, there's got to be something out there that allows housing for traveling nurses. And so I Google it, and there's this thing called Furnish Finder.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah,
I'm
Ashley and Janelle do that.
And I'm like, this can't be. It can't be.
Really,
it seems a little fishy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you never see any advertisements for it, like you do Verbo or Airbnb and stuff. So I started going through it, and I'm like, okay, this is serious. And then I had my first guess, probably June, May
of this year. Oh wow, okay.
Yep. Yeah, because it took a handful of months. It took probably a month to furnish everything. Yeah. Then I had that. Then it took me probably another month to clean everything, to negotiate with Airbnb.
Yeah.
And Airbnb almost charged me for all my people I tried canceling. And I was like, no, this ain't my fault. And so I went with traveling nurses, had my first nurse, boom, $1,800.
Jeez.
Are there 2 nurses now?
It depends on this situation.
Yeah.
They were coming from Texas, and there were 2 of them, so they just happened to be that way. But I just got a phone call on Friday last week. A guy named Shannon from Atlanta is going to be staying January 14th to June 14th or July 14th of next year.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So these people are smart. They're professionals. They like to plan ahead.
Yep.
And he just signed a contract for
That's amazing.
$1,800 for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
For 6 months.
Yeah.
6 months. Yeah.
That's amazing. When did the fiance come into the picture?
So I've been dating her about 4 years.
Okay.
4 years this month, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I had always been entrepreneur minded, and she's more traditional, like conservative. Yeah. Like she doesn't like to spend money. She has, 401k, a couple of investments, but I was trying to like get her out of her shell of like, hey, even though you make a 6-figure income, you can make a strong 6-figure income if you like start using your strengths. And so I was like, we got to do this. Let's just do something. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because I heard growing up with Dustin that when you have 2 spouses and they're on separate careers, if you don't have something tying them together outside of your family, they start to drift apart. So like if one's a CPA and one's a nurse, the nurse doesn't give a shit about the CPA's career, and the CPA don't give a shit about the nurse's career. But if they don't have something tying them together and working towards something, it's easier for them to go get distracted or talk to somebody else or, talk about their feelings or whatever. So I knew I wanted to do something with my spouse outside of family.
Yeah. That's amazing.
That's why so many times when the kids leave, they graduate from high school, they're in college, whatever, what happens to the parents? Divorce. Yeah. Because that was tying them, their relationship together. And it happens all the time. But if you can find something on the common ground that outside of your kids, that you can have, common ground with and do something together with, it's huge.
So is she more supportive of the moving company or the rental property?
Probably the rental stuff.
Really?
Yeah, because it's hands off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The moving company, she's helped us before, but
yeah.
and she'll help bring leads in. But
Yeah.
you know, for me, I see that as a great way for making cash on weekends and nights.
Yeah.
Here's a
know
cool
what I mean?
thing, and not to interrupt.
Yeah, you're good.
But I've known John quite a while, and before Samantha and stuff, and so you know, it's cool because John's been a wild man for a long time, so she knew what she was getting into.
What does wild man mean?
You know what I mean?
You're talking to me, right?
Well, yeah, you got two in the room, outnumbered. Wild man meaning in this way, entrepreneur, go getter.
Yeah.
You know, is just
Hungry.
hungry for life, not ain't doing a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's not John.
Yeah, that's true.
And she knew that. You know, so she knew what she's getting into, and so, but now it's so cool because, like you said, I mean, he definitely married up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sharp
sure.
gal. She's also in the roofing business, right? She
Yep.
does
Construction. Yeah.
construction, roofing,
Is that her job?
sales.
That's her job is sales.
She's a shingle manufacturer rep. So contractors and distributors go to her company, and she's the one to make sure they have the shingles they need to do stuff. So
That's pretty cool.
yeah. So what I like about that is she deals with douchebags that own construction companies, and so
Yeah.
she can handle her own.
Yeah.
She doesn't. You know, somebody's saying something stupid, she's not going to
She's
just.
not just gonna sit there and
back
take
down.
it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So she's a little
she's a
fiery.
go getter. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's perfect, you know. So
Yeah.
then, you know, so when John started talking about all his investments, and she's like, okay, let's just do that. So,
Yeah.
but it's awesome. So I'm super excited for him because I've seen him from
Grow.
just being like trying to figure this thing called life out, and then just now he's killing it.
So has there been, besides the Airbnb issue, your first tenant, has there been any other struggles you've kind of encountered? Whether it be the moving company, real estate, or having a 9 to 5 and still, because you do have a 9 to 5, right?
Well,
now.
outside sales, you control your own calendar. So
Oh, you do? Oh, you're just commission based or just?
I do a salary plus commission, but like
Okay.
Mondays, I go to the office every Monday morning for a training, and then I own my calendar Monday night through Friday.
Wow.
So, like,
that's nice.
If I have something on my calendar tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., I always call them ahead of time, Monday night, and say,
Yeah.
hey, I'm John. You know, does 8 work? Does 9 a.m.
Yeah.
work? Does 7 work? Sometimes 6 a.m. is better because they might have to go to work at 8:30.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And so then it'll take me an hour to run my appointment, and then I'm done for the day.
Wow.
So that's
nice.
why I'm getting my real estate license, because last year, which this is why it's always good to have a good network. So last year, I'm doing, foundation stuff, and I always ask them, why do you want to fix the problem? You know what I mean? Because then it allows me to build rapport, figure out how they're thinking.
Their incentives, all
You know
that
what I mean?
stuff. Yeah.
And we had a client that moved from California to Iowa, but then was moving from Iowa to Kansas City because they wanted to be closer to their
Family.
kids.
Yep.
And I was like, well, do you have a realtor? And I was like, and they're like, no. And I was like, well, I got somebody for you. I was like, it wouldn't be me, but I'm not done taking my test because I'm,
Yeah.
I'm procrastinator a little bit,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'll get it done. So
We'll
I
get it.
called Dustin. I was like, dude, you need to call this guy. Boom, boom.
Yeah.
And Dustin helped him out.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But back to my work history a little bit. So you mentioned from Hy-Vee to now, I also worked in banking for 4 years. And I did that so that I can learn everything about how money works, how credit utilization works, why credit is important.
That's amazing. Good for you.
Yeah.
Yep. So I did that because I realized my parents didn't teach me how to do finances. They didn't teach me how to budget. They didn't teach me any of this stuff. So I wanted to learn, outside of mentors, how money works in the real world. You know what I mean?
Well, in the banking world.
In the banking world, yeah.
How money works in the real world ain't what they teaching you in the bank. Dude.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, DTI and all this other
Yeah,
stuff. So I did that so that I could prepare myself for real estate. Obviously, I was working at Wells Fargo, and then I worked for a small credit union. And during that time, it was 9 to 5, and I hated it because I'm trapped to a desk.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
How much do you think?
So go ahead.
No, how much do you think that learning that vocabulary, the banking, has helped be an investor, or be able to like voice what's going on in your head to someone who's not investing? It's such a breakdown in terminology. So I'm kind of jealous that you have that much time with banking, because as much as I study them, it still just kind of goes over my head sometimes.
So like at Wells Fargo, I had 3 months of training all day, every day for 3 months. So that's 40 hours a week, That's 160 hours a month. 160 times.
That someone
3.
paid you.
Yeah.
That's 3. Yeah, that's
You know?
almost 400 hours.
Yeah.
Just studying.
Yeah.
You know, anything related to loans and credit.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
But this is what's cool that I think about what John has accomplished is, and I've heard Grant Cardone kind of talk about it, but he's always talking about, you know, you go out there and you're trying to get it, you know, go get a job, but you're getting a job, like don't stay in one job.
Yeah.
He's always about go out, get some history, and then once you attain that knowledge base, quit the job and then go get another job that pertains to what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Get the experience, understand, have them coach and teach you and train you, and then they're paying you, and then that's what, so John, like, he knew he wanted this whole, so he got that job, and then he gets, I'm going to do this job because I know this job is going to prepare me for this.
Yeah.
Like, that's what he's been doing.
That's awesome.
And I was dumb enough. I stayed in a job for 16 years. Corporate America, and I didn't do that.
Do too much for real estate.
No,
the
it's restaurant, right? It's like, hey, I was in one, you know, profession that had nothing to do with, you know, real estate, and I was there for 17 years learning nothing. Yeah, and you know,
well, you met your wife there though, so
That's true.
You gotta,
Yeah.
And
you
you
locked
learn
that in before we
right.
got that
you locked that
in.
Yeah, you learn to deal with contractors because in the restaurant business everything breaks. So you're always trying. But when I met John and he's telling me all these things, like, yeah, man, this is great because this is going to teach me how to do this, and I'd be like, all right, John, what's your next job? Because he would stay in a job for like less than a year and be like, all right, man, I got this job. All right, cool, I'm checking in on you. What are you learning now? Oh, I'm doing this. I'm like, that's good stuff.
That's good, man.
So
that's
every
good. It's rare
year
to meet, you know, someone my age that's like got that kind of vision and growth for it. So
for sure.
That's inspiring. Yeah.
So one thing I want to mention. So Dustin talked about Grant Cardone. So I listened to an episode of Grant Cardone, probably like 2016 timeframe, 2017 timeframe, and he talks about the 40-40-20 rule. Have you heard of this? Mm-hmm. Grant says if you're going to pay 40% to the government, you better pay 40% to yourself.
Oh, I have heard him talk about.
And he talks about, so if say you make 100K, 40%, which is highballing it, goes to taxes, which obviously it doesn't. Yeah. I mean, they don't take that much, but say they do. 40%, you pay yourself for an investment, whether that's a Roth IRA, a freaking 401k, stock market, or real estate. Yeah. You know what I mean? You need 40% and then living off of 20%. I am doing that currently right now.
Wow, that's amazing. So besides, did you already buy the storage unit, or
The storage unit, the funds are allocated. We already have the money, all that stuff. It's ready. Whenever we get the go ahead to buy it, like, we have the money. We're ready.
So then what are you stacking? What's your next investment like?
Next investment, I haven't talked to Dustin. I've talked to him about it a little bit, but I have a buddy who met an investor group in Arizona that what he does is he takes $50,000 investments from,
what's the name of the company?
20, 30, 50 other people.
What's the name of the?
I don't know. I just know the owner.
Okay.
And he then pulls that money in. He uses his property management company to run everything. And then that said investor takes that $50K and you get 3 units with that.
Wow. With $50K, he promises you 3 units.
But you have to have a net worth of over $250K to even be a candidate.
Over 250?
Yep. You have to be worth 250.
Yeah.
Because then somebody who's worth less than that is going to be like, oh, 50K is like too much for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I don't know the guy. I know who he is. He's doing an event in January called Menace.
Is it here in Iowa?
No, it's down in Arizona. Oh, okay. And this is their first full year doing this training stuff for business owners. He's bringing in Brad Lee, Ed Milet, Gary Brecka, which he's a health genius.
Okay.
And the event's like $400. So I told my best friend, I was like, dude, I don't care what you need to do. Get me in front of this guy. I want to know how all this works. Yeah. Because the return on investment's $1,200 a month. I give him $50K. That's going to give me 3 units at $1,200 a month. That's $14,000 a year. That is almost a 30, like it's like 28 to 30.
Yeah. That's a 28% cash on cash return, dude.
And you don't have to dink with
anything. And his property management company runs it. So I don't have to worry about clients or anything, or, renters or anything. And so I told the guy, I said, Carlos, I don't give a shit what you need to do. Get me in front of this guy. I'm ready to give him $50K right now.
Yeah.
And so that is my
So that's your next step
my next
after
step.
the storage unit.
Yep.
That's awesome.
I could do that right now. I have 50 grand set aside already for that.
Okay.
Ready to rock and roll. And then outside of that, I forgot to tell you, I own land. I own 20 acres. It's not a lot,
Tillable?
but yeah.
Tillable, and you just sharecrop it or rent?
Yep. Sharecrop.
That's awesome.
Yep.
My family has some land as well. That's kind of, we've used that. It was like passed down. We had, the land was in our family for like 100 years. And then they didn't set up retirement the way their death or whatever, the way they should. So they took half the farm when they passed, and we got the rest. But it was all paid free and clear. So we borrowed against that to do different projects, the equity and stuff. We just got a 57 unit apartment together.
That's awesome.
And we used some of the equity in that land to help close on that. Yeah. So that
Good
was
collateral.
It is. It really is.
Well, especially
it's like $9,000 to $10,000 an acre right now for tillable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, the best thing is, I mean, because the family's not going to sell it.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, no.
So it's just sitting there.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're not selling it. So it's like, so they can
utilize it?
Why not utilize it?
Exactly.
And it's fantastic.
That was actually a pretty crazy deal. It was like the biggest deal we've ever done, and we brought absolutely no cash. Zero cash.
Yeah.
We needed 20% down cash. Didn't bring any of it. Just re-leveraged it.
Just through the bank and through seller financing and through leveraging the farm
And the seller carryback.
and the seller carryback.
Yeah. Have you heard of that term?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Well, we're sitting there at the closing table and look over. Kurt's kind of looking at this, going like, "There's no money that we're putting in this," because we're trying to figure this out, and there's like no money, no. People are like, "How much you put in?" I'm like, "Nothing." They're like, "How do you do that?" I said, "Talk to Ethan." I don't know.
Yeah.
Somehow he figured it out. But.
So that's where it comes to, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And then when you know the right person, then it's about what you know.
Yeah. Because you can, especially when you're with in a setting like this, everyone has their own specific skill set, and it just takes one sentence for somebody to say something that then triggers all your ripple of oh my gosh, I could do this after and it's a beautiful thing. Yeah, that's why I like Dustin, because he always slows me down a bit with my. I've been going hard for probably 5 years. My first 2 years were a lot slower. I was only buying one house a year, but for the past 5, it's been pretty ramped up. Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, I've been blessed. Well, we're 30. Yeah, we're the same age. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's way cool.
So, what do you think? I guess is now that you're an active investor, is one of the biggest things that you've learned actually being in the game. Like you said, some people don't, because they don't know what to do, don't know where to start, and it's ultimately just about pulling the trigger. What do you think has been your biggest learning curve or piece of advice for someone who hasn't pulled the trigger?
You only get have you ever heard of the book called The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek?
I have not heard of that.
Okay, so he talks about time. Time is infinite when it comes to the world standpoint, but we have a finite amount of time as human beings.
Yes.
You know what I mean? From 0 to 100.
Yeah.
Give or take.
Yeah.
If we're 30 now, we only have maybe 30 to 50 years of
left.
quality productivity.
Yeah.
Because when you're 80, do you really want to be doing what you're doing?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's if you have 30 years to crush it right now, why not start? Because then if you fail, well, now you got 29 years to make up that 1 year loss.
Yeah.
Right.
And so when I read that book, I remember hey, I need to do everything I possibly can now, because if I throw everything away and I just fail at everything and go bankrupt, whatever, at 40, I can restart.
That's amazing. So many people need to learn it.
What's
40,
the name?
you're still young. You can really buckle down, and even if things didn't work out. I mean, how old were you when you left?
It's called The Infinite Game.
Infinite Game?
Yeah, by Simon Sinek. He's the one that started with, wrote the book Start With Why.
Got it.
When did you start real estate? How old were you?
37?
Yeah, exactly.
I knew that.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. That actually reminds me of this. Me and him have talked about this. It's I think when you're raised or you're a kid, you're taught or conditioned that it's time that's infinite and it's money that's finite. But when you get older, it's the exact opposite. Money is infinite. It can always be just printed or remade, and it's time that's finite, and you really just only have so much of it to kind of focus on, and it really resets your priorities when you look at it like that.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
What's another book
that's awesome.
that you think is
another book?
Yeah. Not necessarily real estate,
Okay,
but just
this one's gonna blow your mind. It's called The Code of the Extraordinary Mind.
What?
It is by a guy named Vishen Lahikanti or something like that, and he has a company called Mind Valley. But he talks about the very first chapter in this book. He talks about rules, bullshit rules society places on you. And he gives an example of like he grew up Indian, where you're not allowed to eat the cow and stuff. Well, when he was 8, down the street a McDonald's was installed, and he asked his mom. He's like, "Mom, can I go get a burger from McDonald's?" She's like, "No, we're Indians. That's sacred to us. We do not eat beef."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Why?" She's like, "I don't know." And then he's like, "Well, if I figure out why I can't eat beef, will you let me go eat a hamburger?" She's like, "Sure." And she's like, he's an 8-year-old kid.
There's no way he's
never going to figure this out because
yeah.
nobody else in their culture has figured out why they don't eat beef.
Yeah.
He goes couple, and this was back in the 80s, so you couldn't just Google
That's a great point.
You know what I mean? And so he then goes and like reads encyclopedias and all this other stuff, and he says, "Okay, Mom, I figured it out. Back in the day, we used cows to pull things on the farm, and so they were a tool for us, and they were kind of like a pet, like a dog.
Yeah.
Do you eat your dog?
No.
No. And so everybody thought, well, it's sacred not to eat your dog, not to eat your cow in this instance." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, I never knew that. Let's go get you a burger." And so he calls that a rule, a bullshit rule society places on you.
Rule. Bullshit. Okay.
And that's why I give you that book recommendation, because he talks about multiple other things. Like he talks about how, we'll talk about marriage here in a second. So he says, if you can fall into love, why can't you fall out of love? Like, can it's okay in society for two people to grow together, but what happens if truly the two people aren't meant to be together and they fall out of love over time?
I've never heard someone say that before. I mean, that completely makes sense. With any other relationship besides your partner, that is completely accepted and normalized.
But which one's more accepted? Falling in love.
Right.
And
That's
then
falling out.
But falling out of love, then it's like, you can't do that. It's not good.
And just like you said, like your best friend from middle school, well, you just different interests.
Yeah.
You just don't see eye to eye. Whatever it is, it's okay. You know what I mean? And then he talks about one other thing. When you are divorced, why do the kids have to come to different homes? He's like, me and my wife, ex-wife, she's now a good friend. We bought a house. I live there a week. Then I move out. The kids stay there. She moves in a week. And I was like, dang. Okay.
So the kids never
have
leave
to
the house.
relocate.
They're always in the
never
same
have to move
house.
schools. And I was like, this guy is thinking at a higher level.
Way out of the box.
You know what I mean? But I was like, well, the reason people can't do this is because they don't have enough money.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's 3 houses.
Exactly.
Kids.
So yeah, I would read that book.
That's a good one. I've never heard that. Okay, all right.
People will be at home be like,
right.
yeah.
That's gonna start the wheels going.
Like, okay, I guess that's true.
So what's this marriage talk we need to get into? I need to flip this over for the notes.
See, here's the deal here, because and Tyler, Ethan was messing with John about relationships, right? You can talk about that girlfriend or fiance, and now you could hammer him.
Heck yeah.
Yeah,
remember?
I've been single for a bit.
Okay.
That's so funny. That is awesome, man. So a lot of experiences, obviously doing well. Went from high school to a lot of jobs to Hy-Vee to banking.
Yep.
After your banking job, what was the next job?
Let me go back 2 seconds. Right after Hy-Vee, I went to a company called Labor Ready. It was a short-term staffing thing in between 18 to 19, and I did that for a summer, and it exposed me to probably 40 different careers. So I would walk into this place, and they say, "Hey, John, here's a list of 3 jobs. You can pick one of the 3 and go out there, and you're working there for the next 3 days." I worked at U-Haul. I worked at Ryder. I worked at multiple things, and I did that so that I could get exposure to things I didn't like. And one of the jobs was working in a warehouse. And oil bottles to put oil in your car?
Yeah.
It was just those little blue bottles going on a conveyor belt. And all I had to do for a 12-hour shift is if there was an additional piece of plastic on there was take it off and throw it in a bucket. But
that sounds so tedious.
It was the worst thing in the world because in front of my line, watching this, the clock was right there. And the whole time I'm like, oh my gosh, I have 10 hours and 47 minutes left. And it just exposed me to so much more of what I didn't want to do. And that was hard labor. That's
amazing, though, that you got, because I think knowing what you don't like and knowing what you do like, they're pretty as important as one another. It's so that's awesome. And the fact that that was at a young age, kind of jealous. Yeah. Was that a program that you signed up for, or like a job fair?
Something my dad heard about called Labor Ready. I don't even know if they have it anymore, but it was a staffing agency specifically for light industrial work, and you could just walk in like a day labor. Is that what they call it?
Yeah, day labor.
You just walk in, and they'll have jobs from other companies that would be like, "Hey, we need 2 extra guys today. If you get anybody, send them through the door."
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing. And you said your dad's still alive?
Yep.
Is he retired now?
No, he's been medically disabled since I was 16, so going on 15 years.
Oh, wow. So he hasn't worked since then?
Since then. He used to be a truck driver.
Okay.
And so when he went through all that health stuff, they took his medical card. You know what I mean? So he's just been driving crazy in his house for the last 15 years.
But he beat cancer.
He's in remission and all that stuff.
That's amazing. Yep. That's amazing. And so what's your mom do?
Mom, when I was also 15, she stopped working. Why? This is when I realized that it doesn't matter if you have a loved one that's close to you. I know more about Dustin than I do my mom.
Really?
Yeah. My mom, she's not one to speak or open up or anything. My mom didn't work because my dad was a truck driver, so she was a stay-at-home
mom. She was a stay-at-home mom while
Yep. And then when he lost his ability to work, she was doing some stuff for a hotel, but stopped doing that because she got sick, and then she didn't work for the next 10 years. You know what I mean? And that's when I realized, holy shit, it's up to me to help
to take care of things.
Yeah, for my sisters at home and stuff like that. Yeah. So, but that's when I realized
on that. I guess, geez, that's something, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. So my mom now, she only calls me once a year. I see her maybe once a year for a Christmas event, but I know nothing about my mom.
Does she live here in Iowa?
She does. But I can't get her to open up or anything. I know nothing about my mom, which is so weird.
That is, yeah, especially in the Midwest. I feel like you're a little bit more lovey-dovey here than in other
Do you think,
places.
John, maybe because you're 100% not that way, right? In terms of you being able to give and help and share. And I mean, you're always helping people. Even to the point where you had to start your own company because people kept taking advantage of you,
right?
In terms of moving. But I mean, do you think that was a huge part of your upbringing? I mean, I think everyone has that, right? But the upbringing of this kind of this environment that you lived in growing up, where it's very keep yourself, don't talk about your emotions, maybe.
Yeah.
And then when you had an opportunity to be like, nah, dude, because you're not that way.
Yeah, I think I learned. It's kind of like Tony Robbins. He talks about how he learned everything, what he didn't like from how his parents raised him. So I learned finances because my parents were bad at finances. I learned how to have a good relationship with my spouse because I watched my parents have the worst relationship I've ever seen. You know what I mean? So pretty much life was a learning curve or a learning opportunity for me, the opposite of everything else, if that makes sense.
That's amazing.
But here's the deal. So how
did you look at it that way too? Yeah.
How did you know though? So you don't have this, I mean, you have in front of you an example that you maybe don't want to follow. What did you have to do since you knew you had an example of what you didn't want? What did you keep telling yourself, I have to do this differently and go out there and find whatever that is through books, mentorship, networking, podcasts? What was that for you?
For me, is being curious. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know things. You know what I mean? And I knew my friends or my sphere of influence. I had a cap. We all have a cap of information we have access to.
Yeah.
If I know everything about you, Ethan, we're at the same level, same playing field. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I need to go pursue somebody who has a different network, a different perspective, different ideas, all of that. So when I was 20, I met a guy who led me to a mentor of mine who's right around 10 years older than me now. And I've always pursued that because he has a different lifestyle. He has a different relationship with his wife. You know what I mean? But he also just thinks about things differently. So I've always pursued that since I was 20. So that's 10 years ago now. And so my life has been drastically different because I met a stranger.
That's all. That's how me and Jason met, was pursuing people outside of your
I think that's
cap.
Dude, that right there, like pursuing that, like that should be a podcast. I mean, that right
in
there
itself could be a whole thing. Yeah.
Especially because I know Jonathan's, John's past and how he, because I know who he's talking about, and these are the most amazing people that he's referring to, and from the guy on the outside watching this, transformed, helped him, but he had to be
there.
He had to be the one pursuing it, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, when it comes to leadership or mentorship, they get that kind of like, that's weird, pursuing somebody, trying to learn from them. But
it works.
Valuable.
It really works. So you've met Jason, then, I'm assuming? His older brother?
Oh, who? His brother?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I met Jason.
Okay, that's how we met.
Oh, okay,
Jason was my mortgage broker.
Yep.
And by my third...
Yeah. No, literally
we have a lot in common.
Yeah, dude, no. So Dustin calls me. We go look at the townhouse. I'm like, let's buy it now. And he's like, you got the pre-approval? I was like, no, I ain't got the pre-approval. He calls his brother. His brother calls his wife. His wife, I forget your sister-in-law.
Jamie, yep.
She calls me. She's like, John, boom, got approved in 20 minutes, done.
That's amazing.
All in the same night. And I'm like, Dustin, we got the pre-approval letter. Here you go.
Let's put it on for us.
Yeah.
Baby. That's awesome.
That's that network, right? You
Yeah.
gotta have these people that put deals together, and
I'm still at that. I mean, I've been studying this game for like a decade now, but there's still questions that I get asked that I don't know. But at this point, I'm pretty confident I can pick up a phone and figure out whatever that question is that I don't know, and just a call or two and find out the answer. So that's been a blessing when you're pushing your boundaries of who you have access to.
Yep.
So I mean, like when we first started, I've told this story a couple times on this, but like when we met, I drove out. I was in Ames, and I drove out here to see his projects. He didn't know really anything about me, and it went really well. And so we ended up going to get like lunch together. And at the end of it, I was like, "Dude, we're gonna do business together. Like, I'm gonna be one of your business partners." He kind of just like laughed me off a little bit. No,
I was just happy he bought me lunch at Perkins. I'm like, man, this is pretty cool.
It's pretty nice back then, yeah. And now we've done what, 4 or 5?
Oh yeah,
I think starting with the Essex, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, not enough.
Not enough. Many more to come.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes back to that whole network. Just people knowing people, being willing to pursue. I mean, just think about that. Like, holy cow! Like,
it's amazing.
The ripple effect is incredible.
Incredible.
Because what you've done for me and what I've been able to maybe help with your life, and then just wow. Because you think about every little experience or every little thing. It's like, and the people you meet, it's like, man, how do I get connected? Oh my gosh, how did I get connected with that dude? Was this, which was this, and you go back to liturgy, and it's like,
oh
wow,
my gosh,
kind of messes you up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, holy, we would not be here if this didn't happen, which was
that's like relatable to my TikTok with Derek. So a partner that we're all partners now on that 57plex, but I put out a video about 1031 tax exchanges on TikTok, and a guy from Seattle hit me up, and within like 15 minutes we were on IG doing a video call. It was a 2-hour video call, the first time we'd ever, and now, I'm about to have a property in Washington probably in the next few months. We've done a deal. He's flown out here multiple times. We've done wholesale deals, and it's just, the ripple has just been insane from that one TikTok post. Like,
that's cool.
Jeez. Super blessed with that.
I have a question for you, Ethan.
Yeah.
This is my first time meeting you. Why do you do what you do? Why do you wake up?
It probably goes back to my mom as well, kind of similar to taking care of my parents. My dad was in the military. He was hurting in an explosion downrange, and he had to stop working. I was in college. I wrestled in college, like how I met Marshawn. Ended up getting hurt, dropping out. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, except like I wanted travel and I wanted to take care of my mom. And so then it just I backtracked. I just started studying money, like you said. And then that led me to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then from the time I read that book, it was pretty much, I'm going to do real estate. And then now I have a a son, and so he comes to, I'm a single dad, so he like comes to my projects with me. He was like come to business meetings with us. That's just cool. Very much so want to be able to pass this gift on if that's something that he chooses that he wants in the future, or just to have the option, you know. And so I think that's a big thing for me.
So have you bought him a property yet?
Have not bought him a property. I got him his own like Roth or whatever they have for kids, like a 1023, I think it is. Yep. And no, he's just in it right now. I'm focused on my parents, and he's 7, so all his bills are.
Take care of.
So what I mean is, like I've listened to Bigger Pockets a ton. Have you listened to Bigger
Pockets? Yeah, I
listen
to Bigger Pockets. Yeah.
When Brandon was there, he bought a fourplex
for his kid. Yes, yeah, that was amazing.
He talked about how this can be an income producing fourplex for his daughter when she turns 18, or it can be he could sell it and pay for it. The monthly amount can pay for college or whatever she wants.
Whatever she wants.
So that's why I asked. Yeah. When are you gonna buy him a property?
I haven't done it yet.
Roll, you know.
So cool story about Brandon Bigger Pockets is I met Brandon a couple times, and I was on the Bigger Pockets mastermind coaching call. They had me as a guest. So it was when Brandon left and David Green was running it.
Yep.
So there's like 60 or 70 people, but they had me as their guest, like talking about how I utilize TikTok in creative financing. That was like the only things we talked about.
That's cool.
That was cool.
That's awesome.
Super cool. What's like your next goal that you're chasing right now? Besides the stacking of the money, like what's maybe not business related or like life or with your wife or fiance?
Yep. So we got engaged in October. She said yes. So I'm thankful for that. But we're getting married in Iceland next year.
Yes, dude. I've been to Iceland.
You have?
Reykjavik?
Yeah.
Is where you're flying into?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Really?
Yeah. So
what should we do there? We're going to be there a whole week. We're trying to figure out, is July or August better?
I actually, that was a weird situation. I did like 7 countries, and I was like there for like 45 days. I was like bouncing around Europe, and we ended up having a layover in Iceland for 12 hours. Okay. So instead of just sitting in the airport, which I don't think you can count being to a country if you stay in the airport.
You got to get out.
Yeah. So when you land in the airport, it's like an hour away from the main city or whatever. So we took a bus, and then it was me and my ex. We drank, we ate, went to local shops, did some shopping, hit like a local hotel that was like a cool little hot tub area, and it was really fun. So I don't have a ton of experience with, but the mountainous stuff there is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. You're definitely gonna want to check out the Blue Lagoon while you're there. It's like the natural blue hot springs. It's super
cool.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've had a couple of friends that took a trip out there. They said it is like ethereal, like when you're just under the stars and it's just nothing around you for miles and miles.
That's awesome.
It's so peaceful.
Okay, cool.
Where's are you inviting a bunch of people and destination, or is it a very small select?
So we thought because we put it so far out there that nobody would show up, but we've got 40 people committed so far.
That's amazing.
Yeah. That's amazing. So that just goes to show the quality of our friends.
Oh, 100%. That speaks volumes to you and her as individuals.
Yep. So we keep telling people, and they're like, "Oh, can we come?" Like I want to go to Iceland for anything else, but we would go for your wedding and then go experience. So
part of that. That'd be awesome.
Give or take, it's supposed to be a destination. We planned on 10, 20 people, but when you start adding up couples, the number just keeps getting higher and higher. I'm excited.
It shouldn't have changed too much of the budget besides the food, right?
Yeah, we're gonna do the reception out there and pay for like the dinner that night. But other than that, everybody else is paying for their flights, their
own hotel. Yeah, exactly. I was just in Mexico for a destination wedding like 2 weeks ago, and that's exactly we don't want any gifts. Like, don't bring us a single gift.
No, you're coming.
Yeah, you pay for the plane ticket.
We don't need a gift.
Yeah, you pay for the hotel. Everything else is covered, and because it was on a resort, so it was like it was amazing. Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's what we're doing. I guess
that's the big goal.
Question.
So planning that is. Your wife kind of more hands-on, or you pretty? She wants you.
I can get married down the street. I don't care. Like I'm doing this for her,
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's just sitting back.
Yeah,
he did his part. Got on his knee.
Exactly.
That's your turn.
Yeah, but it's a nice ring.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
All right, so before we wrap things up, what's like the last thing you want to accomplish before 2023? We're December 5th of 2022. What are you trying to accomplish in the next like 25 days?
Yeah,
I need you feel good and like you got a gold star.
I need to sell 175K in foundation repair, and I'll get a $12,000 bonus.
175K.
Which that's a job.
Can that be
job
doable?
Details.
Yeah, is that?
I mean,
I sold
175,000.
235,000 in September, so it's definitely doable.
Okay.
But because in Iowa it gets cold, people our leads are starting to slow down.
Yeah.
And so that's where it's like I could really push the pedal to try to do it, but then I'm like,
You got Christmas in there, New
you know what I
Year's in
mean?
there.
Yeah,
and so that's where it's like, it's out there. If I hit it, cool. But I learned how to budget a long time ago. Like, it doesn't bother me if I hit it or not. You know what I mean? The money's going to be there. It's fine.
But that's, I mean, 175,000. I mean, that seems like what's your
is that
average?
2 houses or 1 house or 3
Yeah, what's your
houses?
average per basement?
Average per right around $4,100.
41.
But like
4,100?
4,100.
Oh, that's a ton of houses.
To make up.
So-
I
$175,000.
thought it was gonna be like 30 grand per pop or something.
Not at all. So like the appointment I came from before here, the city of Des Moines owns a retirement community thing over off Euclid. It's 52 units, and one of the units is sinking. So we'll go down there and pier it. It was a $17,000 bid.
Oh wow, that's
You know
nice.
what I mean? So that's where
nice.
it's like the 41's somebody who just needs to sell
Yeah.
bump, blah, blah, blah.
down. Yeah.
But then you have bigger ones of like, I talked to a farmer last week that needs 30,000 worth of stuff for his farmhouse.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's like, that's why you average it out.
Yeah. Well, dude, this has been a blast,
Yeah,
man.
it's
Seriously, a lot in common. I look forward to continuing this relationship in the future. And
Heck
if you're
yeah.
stuck along his side, well, I ain't going anywhere. So
That's funny. So one thing I wanted to mention, so Dustin has here favorite quote, and I was talking to Dustin.
Oh
about
yeah,
this.
let's hear it.
Yeah.
My favorite quote, I learned this a long time ago, but it says, "Forgive yourself for not knowing what you didn't know before you learned it."
I like that.
Boom.
Yeah, that is a ding. Great way to end.
We gotta have one of
Heck
those.
yeah.
We gotta have one of those. What do they call those things?
Rim shot.
There you go. Rim shot.
Just
Ooh,
have it
have it
hang
here.
here.
Bam!
Every time someone says
Everyone
something cool.
says, you know, and then you just that's.
Good to go. All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching, and definitely tune in for the next episode, and we'll see you guys next time.